Pesachim Daf test. Today, two individuals, both from Florida, didn't know that each other watches the shir, and they both sponsored today's shir. And here's the story. Hi, my name is Gedalia Fenster. He's the father of a very special kid, Yerachmiel Daniel. He says, I have a daily podcast with over 20,000 followers discussing Torah and psychology. I want to donate Wednesday shir in honor of the surgery of my son, Yerachmiel Daniel ben Tova Basha. He's having a bone marrow surgery. Yerachmiel beat leukemia when he was 8 years old, and today's 14, and he had a relapse, unfortunately. I want to tell you that I've promoted this shir to many. I've listened to this shir since the beginning of brachas. I really enjoy the rabbi's out-of-the-box style. Then comes his uncle, James Sack, also from Florida. Just an FYI, Gedalia Fenster is my nephew, my sister's son. What's incredible is that we're both listening to the same shir, and we haven't spoken about it. It was on. Yerachmiel should have a refuah shlema. I myself would like to sponsor today's shir, today's 8-minute, the refuahs Yerachmiel Daniel ben Tova Basha. If we all could say some tehillim and learn for his schus, will be a wonderful thing. Today's brand new Mishnah is discussing marar. The Mishnah gives us a list of 5 different marars, and the Gemara tells us that what comes first in the list is number 1. Second in the list, if you don't have number 1, go to number 2, etc. A list is very important in the Gemara. First in the list is chasa, which everybody translates as romaine lettuce, chazeres, romaine lettuce. Second is tamcha, which they translate as chrein, as horseradish. So if you don't have romaine lettuce, you go to horseradish, and in fact in Europe, when they didn't have romaine lettuce, they used horseradish. That's why it's very prevalent today. Charchavina are the vines that grow around the palm tree. Ulshin are endives, even the field variety, and marar, which are very bitter leaves. Some say it's wormwood. The Torah says, Al matzis umroirim yechlu. Umroirim is plural, so it means at least 2. But just like matzah has more than 2 varieties of matzah, so too marar has many varieties of marar. You could use the stalk, whether it is dry or moist, but the leaf itself must be moist, otherwise it's not the derech achila. It cannot be preserved, Rashi says, with vinegar. Other Rishonim say even with water, and that's very important for this year when Pesach falls out on Motzei Shabbos. So if you prepare the romaine lettuce before Shabbos, be careful not to put it in water, even in a dripping bag or something, because that might be kavush. You cannot use marar that was stewed or cooked, because that removes the bitter flavor. You could take 2 types of marar and use a half a kazais of chrein, let's say, and a half a kazais of romaine lettuce, and you are yoytze. You're yoytze with the mai. That's if you bought the marar from an Amma Aretz, and from Meiser Rishon, that's the 10% you give to the Levi, and the Levi, he took 10% and gave it to the Kohen. You could use that, and you could use the Meiser Sheni, the 10% that you give to yourself to bring to Yerushalayim, and Hegdish, that was Nifta, Meiser Sheni, that was Nifta. The Beis Shmuel, they add oregano, or some say it's wormwood. Rabbi Yehuda says, in order for something to be marar, it has to have sap coming out of it when you cut it. And Rabbi Yochanan says it has to be light green. And the Acherim say, let's combine the 2, and that's the halacha. You have to have sap and light green. The Gemara says an amazing story, and it's halacha l'maisa for today. Ravinus noticed that Rav Acha was looking for the 5th one on the list, marar, for bitter leaves. And he says, why? Is it because you want to have something more bitter than the others? Rav Oshi said the mitzvah is with chazeres, with romaine lettuce. And Rav explains that chasa, lettuce, is chas Hashem. Hashem has rachmanis. Rabbi Yonasan says it's because it's like the Mitzrayim who started out all nice and soft like the leaves, and later on hardened up like the stalk. Says Rav Acha, you are correct. I retract. I'll never look for another lettuce, for another type of marar. I'm going to be eating romaine lettuce from today on. How do we know that it's marar is a vegetable? Perhaps it's the gall of a fish. Well, it has to be like matzah. Matzah grows from the ground. Well, perhaps it's the something that grows in the ground, a tree called hirdaif, which Moshe Rabbeinu used to sweeten the main marah. It is very bitter, but it was able to sweeten the water. Well, it has to be herbage, not a tree. There's something called erzifa that's herbage. It's very poisonous. It could kill an animal. Maybe that's what the Torah is talking about. No, that's not something that you eat. It has to be something that you could eat, and therefore, if you can't eat it, it's not chayv. You can't take meiser sheni from it, and therefore, no good for marah. Rav says you could take 5 varieties of vegetables and plant them within 6 tefachim of each other in a box. You put 1 on each corner and 1 in the center, and you're not over on kalayim. Even though one of them is chasa lettuce, and lettuce, when it hardens, the roots grow further to the side, and it might be a problem with kalayim, we're not concerned. If the leaves wither, we have a machlekes. Tanakama says you're not yaitza. Rabbi Elazar ben Tzadok says you are yaitza. What if you take the meiser sheni to Yerushalayim? When we discussed in the Mishnah was when you redeem the meiser sheni. If you take it to Yerushalayim, according to Rabbi Kiva, certainly you're yaitza, because Rabbi Kiva says that you're yaitza even with matzah from Meiser Sheni in Yerushalayim, and matzah is deraisa, and today mar is the rabbanon. But according to Rabbi says that you cannot purchase matzah with Meiser Sheni. Could you purchase marar since it's only the rabbanon, or perhaps anything rabbanon where misakin is called a token, kain deraisa token, it would go be established with the same rules of the similar deraisa. Rava says it makes a lot of sense logically that marar is like matzah because al matzah is roim yichlu, and just like matzah in Yerushalayim, Meiser Sheni is no good, so too marar. Says the Mishnah, it's also to take bran and soak it in water and feed it to the chickens. We're concerned that it'll turn to chametz, but you are allowed to scald it with boiling water. Shulchan Aruch says in our days no one knows how to do it, so stay away from scalding bran. In those days they would use bran to bathe with, so a woman should not soak the bran for bathing purposes, but you're allowed to put it on the body even though the body is slightly wet from bathing. It's also to chew it, even though it's not water, it's saliva. Saliva can also invoke the chametz process, the leavening, and therefore it's also to chew it and put it on a wound. If it's baked, once it's baked, it can't become chametz. If it's baked and then you cook it, it's okay. And if you pour scalding water on it, as we said before, it cannot become chametz any longer. Rabbi Yehuda said that if you have a drip onto flour, a constant drip, and Rav Papa says it goes drip, 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 it's a continuous drip, it will never become chametz because of that action. Vatika, which is a food made from flour, depends. If you made it with oil, it's mutter. If you made it with water, we're concerned it's going to become chametz. It is usher. Have a wonderful day.